Any sort of technical analysis is only worth its weight when they can do a flashback from a few weeks ago where they accurately predicted the candle's motion. This is from January 18th. It can drop all the way down to around 39 to even 38.5, and then it's going to start to see some massive support and pickup. Now we'll start to break bullishly once it runs into this yellow line here, which is another one of these origin trend lines. This time it's more of a support instead of a resistance origin trend line. Now this can start to take hold right around the end of January, beginning of February. As we can see, the candle bounced extremely bullishly off both of our X and Y axis origin trend lines, exactly where the two intersect. If you guys are wondering what's an origin trend line, on every single crypto chart, this never happens in stocks, which is why we believe it hasn't been integrated into technical analysis on crypto yet. The trend lines will repeat themselves over and over again, and oftentimes you can actually space these out with an angled Fibonacci pitch. What we're looking at on the Bitcoin chart is such trend lines intersecting. We get the massive bounce, and now we're forming a broadening wedge pattern with, of course, another repeat off of this golden origin trend line. And just recently, we not only broke out of the broadening wedge, but now we're making its farthest extension yet. So how far can this breakout go until we start to reach resistance? Let's look back to Bitcoin's original breakout back here in January and February. We started finding resistance at this purple trend line. Now, this isn't an origin trend line, which means it doesn't repeat often enough on the chart for it to have origin strength, but it is, as we can clearly see, a very dominant trend line. As we're moving forward, once the candle gets close to this purple trend line, it's indefinitely going to start to see some massive resistance and pull back. Now, what does this mean for Kaspa? As we can see, based on this October run on Bitcoin, Bitcoin has a strong tendency of running before Kaspa does. So Bitcoin jumps up really strong from the middle of October all the way up until like November 5th. And Kaspa was running completely dormant until November 5th. And then it had its massive spike to the upside. So once this Bitcoin spike starts to cool off by the time it reaches this purple trend line, realistically, this is when Kaspa will start to pick up some of that liquidity and then begin its upward movement. Kaspa has its own origin trend lines. And for those of you who've been following on for a while, we could see in this original X-Axis cluster, we had a lot of resistance back from September through the end of October. And once we broke out of this cluster of resistance line, that's when we got another indicator signal that the big candle was about to appear. We were able to make the 10x leverage call out on November 3rd, right before this monstrous move to the upside broke out. Over the past 45 days, our Kaspa chart was giving us all the answers. We knew exactly the price on January 10th was going to be 10.5 cents. We were able to realize that there would be hard resistance at 10 cents with a possible dip down to 9.5. On the one-day chart, our fuel tank is fine. It's above the baseline. This is showing us that we're not going to form a lower high. Now, we might get a little bit of waning pressure. It might go down to like 95 cents for maybe 24 hours, but 10 cents is indefinitely looking strong. Just recently, we've broken out of our X-Axis Fibonacci pitch, so we're entering into new territory. Now we've got to go back on TradingView, grab a new X-Axis Fibonacci pitch, and place it correctly on the chart. And to do so, let's zoom out and look at the two other previous ones, which we know for a fact were placed exactly correct, because on the 316, the exact second to last trend line on the Fibonacci charts, we had massive resistance on both of them. One was the handle of the cup, the other was the falling wedge. So we know that these were placed to exact bullseye accuracy. Taking the first and placing it on top of the second one, we can see that it leads up right until almost touching the second to last Fibonacci pitch. So we want to take this secondary one, which we have spaced out over the third one in a second. I'll show you based on the dividends, place it on top of the second one and have it end up exactly where it is, right before the second to last Fibonacci ring. That is the appropriate spacing that's been working for Kaspa, and it looks like it fits exactly based on the half-an-hour chart. We can see these dividends interacting with these different colored Fibonacci lines. It appears like we're on top of the golden pocket right now. And this exact same trend line that was holding us back on the handle of the cup, that came off of the symmetrical triangle from the April breakout, and was the falling wedge off of the November massive spike, this same trend line is holding the candle down right now, off of the vibration of the Fibonacci pitch. That's how strong these origin trend lines are. That's how undiscovered, underrated, and underestimated this technical analysis system is. This stuff is amazing. You guys should definitely check out the Patreon group. It's priced super cheap. It's a whole library of stuff, and you get printouts. It's great. Anyway, we also have the support y-axis, which has the top of the cup and the handle. We had that set up all the way in the summer, and it actually caught the top of the November breakout. So we know this Fibonacci pitch is set exactly correct as well. Now we can see, we just took this out of the way because there's too many lines on the chart. We have in purple, that's in between the blue and the red zone. And these are going to come to an apex directly on February 20th. Historically, on both X-axis Fibonacci pitches, once we get into the gray zone, that's when things start getting parabolically. For everybody who's still packing their bags and they're part of one of these Patreon groups that's helping them diversify into GameFi token, for one, we don't know that GameFi is going to actually be hot this bull market. Two, take a look at the narrative, for example, of just Hello Labs. It was put together by a bunch of YouTube content creators in Arabic that actually translates into it is a rug pull. And you look at the chart, it went from like 23 to 8. That's looking suspect. Point being is that during the bull market, let's say that you have half a dozen or a dozen of those picked out. It's going to be firecrackers all over. You might get the dopamine rush from seeing some gains on paper. How are you going to actually realize all of those gains? It's going to be extremely difficult to catch the top of any of those, let alone half a dozen. And I know exactly what you're thinking. It's too late to pack my bags. I already missed it. That's what everybody was saying at 2 cents. You've got to keep the New York City real estate metaphor in mind. This is what Michael Saylor always says. You go back in 1785 to buy real estate in New York City. It's $1 an acre. You come back with your wagon and your family in 1801. It's $10 an acre. You say you missed it. A century later, it's $10,000 an acre. 2 centuries later, it's $100 million an acre. We see this type of action compressed down into the halving cycles in crypto. That's why we're all here. That's what's creating these y-axis support lines that keep repeating over and over again. If you're DCAing right now, you got to join the Patreon because you can save money right away. You only need to watch one video. Watch the oscillator video alone. You'll be able to catch the dip. If you switch the oscillator from the 1 day to the 4 hour even, you can catch the dip low again and again. Every time you DCA, you will save money. It will pay for itself. Now you can start to take this a step farther, combine it with patterns, combine it with origin trend lines, and then eventually you'll become a full-fledged trader. Then you can start diversifying into some gaming plays and some leverage trades once your bags are packed. For me, it's easy. We packed our bags at 2 cents. Now I can leverage trade. Catch this 15x on Kaspa with a 10x leverage trade. See, the reason why these Patreon groups just want to preach to you, buy this new GameFi token, they are kids in their parents' basement. They don't have any skill trading. I'm a professional poker player turned day trader. I have years behind the screen looking at the charts. I can help you guys. We have a pick right now inside the Patreon that's going to beat GFAL over the next 90 days, hands down. Of course, we're talking about how to catch it with leverage trades, which is super advanced, high risk stuff. We're trying to find the exact support. You can go ahead and buy this cold storage. You're going to get 150% gain off this over the next 60 to 90 days. Meanwhile, the gaming token, specifically GFAL, isn't going anywhere. It's creating a head and shoulders. They're spending their marketing budget on trying to get retail to buy it by buying themselves trophies at crypto award shows. That's actually a red flag. They should be spending that money on tournaments for their game, stuff to actually get players aboard. Problem is, their product's terrible. Have you guys played the game? It's boring. If you can stick 100 people in a room and they can play either Mario 1 or Final Fantasy or Dragon Warrior, one of those basic 8-bit Nintendo games, or they can play a new 2020 crypto game, which one are they going to spend their time playing? They're not going to be playing GFAL's flagship product that I can't remember the name of off the top of my head. I have played it. It is boring. It does not pass the Super Mario Brothers test. This is not looking bullish at all. We've got to pick in the top 100. With skills on identifying patterns, you can get massive rips. Remember Rune? We called out Rune at $1.80, ripped up to $5. We called out Tia at $5, ripped all the way up to 20. We called out Zetrix. What is Zetrix? Never heard of it. Nobody's done any content on it. Called it out at 5, went up to 12. Okay, you can get upside if you have skills. You want skills, you got to put in the work. Get off the GameFi stuff. You guys remember StockTube? Everybody's like, PLTR, Neo electric cars. Across the board on YouTube, what happened? They all tanked. Groupthink. The creator's like, hey, I'm safe. Everybody else is saying it. GFAL all started with Galaxy. Bless his heart. He's like a 50-50 picker. And isn't going to do much this bull run. I'd get off the GFAL train ASAP. Thank you for watching this video. We'll catch you on the next one.